Good morning, friends. It is an absolutely beautiful day. It's cloudy. It's a little humid, but not too terrible. But I wanted to bring you guys on a beginning of August, end of July garden tour, predominantly so that I can keep track of where we're at. I did a June garden tour, never got it edited or published, so hopefully we'll get that up. It's just going to be out of order. But I wanted to bring you guys along in the garden. I'm super excited. Things are really starting to take off. A lot of people in our area have already had things like growing, and so it's kind of been a little saddening for me, but our stuff is finally, stuff's starting to happen. So I'm super excited to bring you guys along with me. All right, so the box of lettuce that we had growing is no longer, we let it go to seed. We're gonna see if it'll reseed, but we have noticed that we have a yellow jacket's nest here in the corner. So for currently, we're just letting this be so we don't get stung. Our bees this year are terrible. I've had a lot of friends in the area say that their bees are horrible. So I don't know if that's like where we didn't have a cold winter or what, but it has been nasty. Anyway, one of my visions this year for the garden was to have some flowers kind of bordering the garden, and these marigolds are just bushy and beautiful. I only had a couple sunflowers survive and germinate, but they are getting tall. I'll walk down there in a minute and show you guys just how tall they are, but I'm excited to see those heads bloom. And then we've ripped up the first batch of beans that we had, and we've replaced them with some squash and zucchini that I had started in the house to see if we can't get a second round of squash and zucchini, because our first round has succumbed to pests and weather and all that stuff. So this second row, these beans are putting on lots of beans. The flowering is still subtly going, but not much. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna let any beans that are still in the garden go until they are completely gone. We are at a point now in the season where for us, it's gonna be unprofitable to plant any more beans. We won't get a full harvest. So I'm gonna let the handful of bushes that you'll see in this tour, I'm gonna let them go until they die. And then when they start to die, we'll go ahead and compost those up. So these are doing really well. They're still putting on beans. I figure we'll probably get one, maybe two more pickings off of these few plants before we pull these guys out. If we walk on down this row, we have one random corn that survived, but isn't doing much with it. I'm gonna let these go. If they get little tiny husks, great. If not, they make awesome bedding for the pigs and the chickens. We've got a handful of beans. These are ones that I had started in the house and transplanted out here in hopes to get them a jump start with our really hot temperatures that have been really dry with no rain. These are also a couple random. You can see the corn, the cobs I have a feeling are probably going to be pretty small. I didn't thin out the corn stalks in the holes like I probably should have. So the corn I have a feeling will be small, but that's okay, because again, we can eat what we can grow and then compost and use bedding, and the chickens and the pigs will all eat the rest of it, which will be awesome. So all right, this next section I am so thrilled about. This is our okra, and I planted two different kinds. I planted a green variety and a red variety, and the red varieties have finally started putting on blooms. And if you've never seen an okra bloom, I think they're one of the prettiest flowers. Some people will put these in ornamental gardens just because they're so beautiful. But these are our okra, so we should start having okra coming on pretty abundantly because these plants are just thriving beautifully. And they're getting tall too, so they're almost shoulder height on me. But what's really exciting to me, if you were with us last year, my corn was doing great, and then the cows got in it, and then it kind of went kaput. But my corn currently is, I'm like 5'8", and these things are probably like, I don't know, 8-9 feet tall, which is so cool. I've never had corn this tall before, and it's super, super awesome. But we've got stalks coming on. There's the hairs are starting to turn collars, so hopefully we'll have some good corn. It's hard to come by organic corn in our area. and the kids love corn on the cob. So hopefully we won't have too much silkworm damage, and we'll get some corn. But again, I didn't thin this out. Some of you probably will correlate me for it, and I probably should have, but you know what? I'll take little stalks of corn over no corn. So that's where we're at. Our lemongrass is jamming, and our lime trees are doing okay. I need to do some adjusting with this one to get it it keeps almost uprooting in the pot. So I need to work on that one a little bit. But inside the greenhouse, we've got some baby strawberries rolling. We're working on getting these guys rooted so that we can plant them and then get these guys transplanted up into a green stalk to be our next generation of strawberry plants. And I'm hoping to do all the work on the front end this year so that I don't get bogged down by strawberries in the spring. But these guys are just going to keep going, and hopefully have lots of baby strawberries for next year for free, minus a little bit of work. All right, next up, we've got a jungle going on here. We've got a volunteer tomato, some basil that's probably going to be ready to harvest really, really soon, and get that thinned out so it'll keep producing through the summer while we're waiting on tomatoes. We've got my second harvest. We germinated these guys in the house and transplanted them out here and watered them really, really well. And they've loved the heat. And so some of them have already started to go, but some of these I think will still keep going for a little bit, especially because we're having some cooler temperatures. Hopefully they'll keep growing. And then this jungle, most of what you see weed-wise is actually in the rows. We didn't get a chance to mulch these rows. And so these are all potatoes, this row and this row both. But we'll see how they do because I didn't get ahead of the weed pressure on here. I'm probably going to come in sometime next week with a weed eater and just weed whack the rows so I can actually see where we're at as far as potatoes. But the plants are looking good. We haven't had a ton of potato bug damage on them. So I'm super thrilled with that. All right, so this next section, when I was planning the garden this year, I had some visions that I really wanted to see. I really wanted more flowers in the garden. I wanted to try to line the whole garden with sunflowers so that if I did have weeds take over, at least my neighbors had something pretty to look at. Well, the flowers are doing all right, but my other vision, and you guys came along with us while we did this, is this trellis. And my vision was for it to be completely covered and to this be like an alley where the kids could come out and hang out if they wanted to while I was working in the garden and stuff. And so that has started really happening. Things are really starting to take off and going up the trellis. On this side, we've got the pumpkins that are doing really, really good. Some of them are starting to set itty bitty teeny tiny fruits, which is super fun. The watermelons, I'm gonna come in and my mom has some old pantyhose, and I'm gonna support these guys. They're baby watermelons, so they shouldn't get super huge, but we still need to support them so they don't pop off. But there's so much watermelon, which I'm really excited about because we've never had success with ripe watermelon on our property. So I'm thrilled with this. Next up, we've got cantaloupe that are really starting to just climb. Over here, we've got two that have set. I need to come in and support these guys as well, just so they don't drop off. The butternut squash is slow, but it is trying. I've had lots of blooms on it, but you can see it's just not, let me find it. The fruit is just not doing well. So I'm not sure if it's the weather or the dirt or what. But it's trying, and so that's something to count for. And then the loofahs, y'all, the loofahs are exploding. We've got tons of fruit on here. I haven't decided exactly what I'm gonna do. If I'm gonna pick them early, feed them to the pigs, if I'm gonna actually let them go full to loofah, if I'm going to try them to eat, because I'm pretty sure, if I recall correctly, you can actually eat that variety. So, but I'm thrilled. And then on the other side, ignore the big blue barrel, but we've got tomatoes. These are something atomic tomatoes. And I haven't quite figured out, one of the comments I saw was they're hard to tell when they're ripe, and I 100% agree. I thought they were gonna be cherry tomatoes, but they're looking closer to like a Roma / a cherry. And I haven't figured out if they're ripe. But the plants are doing huge. They're doing great. So we're gonna keep working with them. My cucumbers are starting, like this is a tomato, you guys. Here. This tomato is as tall as I am. So cool. But anyway, back to cucumbers. This cucumber plant has started to take off. We've got lots of fruit coming on those. And so hopefully we'll soon have lots of cucumbers to eat. We're eating a couple here and there. DJ's cucumbers have started really jamming, so I've been buying some off of him. Yes, I buy cucumbers from my own son, but you know what? He grew them, he watches them. I do charge a mom tax sometimes, but most of the time I do support his small business of selling cucumbers because he's doing a really good job. I'm proud of him. All right, keep going down here. We've got more tomatoes. We got one that's starting to have a mind of its own that I need to come in and take care of. And then I've got another cucumber down here that's doing great. And then more flowers. So I'm super thrilled, guys. This might be so fun. My garden is a jungle. The weeds are chaotic. But it's so fun to see when your vision actually starts to come to fruition. It's super fun. All right, moving on. I talked about wanting to have the whole garden surrounded by sunflowers. So these ones are starting to peter out. We'll keep some seeds, give the chickens some seeds. And then these ones on the end have started, and they're so tall. They're taller than I am easily, but they're starting to put their heads on and bloom, and they're just beautiful. Down this row, we've got a row of potatoes that are doing good. We're gonna need to weed and hill those soon, but they are doing well. Hopefully these guys won't have quite the same damage as the last batch, but if so, we'll make it work. I mentioned replanting squash. Our squash finally kaputzed. And so the squash and zucchinis, we are done for now with those. Hopefully we'll have okra coming on and cucumbers coming on and tomatoes, and still have beans. So we'll still have plenty to eat directly from the garden, which is the goal. All right, this next row, again, welcome back to the weed country. This is onions. I've had mixed success with onions. Some of them did really, really well, and some didn't. So I'm coming in and harvesting them as I get them weeded, and pretty much just using them fresh. I did in the next row, when I pulled these ones, plant some of the heads that I still had. So if I still have some good onions in the greenhouse from the spring, I'll replant them in here just so that they at least decompose in the garden. But these ones have started, so I'm hoping with it being fall, maybe we'll have a couple large onion heads be successful. And then we did go ahead and pull up this row. We found a volunteer Roma, but I think the turkeys got in here and ate the couple that were ripe, so grr on them. But these actually, under these bags, are carrots. One day next week, we're gonna actually pull these out and pull this off, and hopefully it will have helped put a break on the weeds so that the carrots can get germinated. But the main goal with these guys is just to keep the ground as moist as possible. So I come in with water under the bags, put the bags back on, water the bags, and hopefully it creates a pretty cool, pretty humid temperature so that they can germinate really, really well. All right, this next row, we've got some cinnamon basil, which we've harvested it off before, but looks like it's about ready to be harvested on again. We've got some lovely flowers. I'm telling you, I just love the random pop of color. While everything is still green, like the tomatoes are still green, most of the beans are green. It's just fun to have that random pop of color. These are Cherokee tomatoes, and you can see they're gigantic, and they've been getting bigger and bigger. They're just not turning. So hopefully over the weekend, we'll see those guys get turned. The plants are looking good. I mean, the stalks are super thick and healthy. So I'm really happy with how the tomato plants are doing. We'll see. Oh my gosh, guys, look at this tomato. It's so big. Oh my goodness, that's hilarious. So hopefully they'll start to turn so we could actually slice them and have awesome slices for lunch. And then if not, we'll just have lots of fried green tomatoes. More lovely colors. One of my handful of pepper plants that actually survived, but seems to be doing well. There's quite a few buds on it. And then some more cinnamon, basil, and pretties. This next row is kind of a combination of beans that we've picked, but again, we're gonna just leave these. I don't have fall crops ready yet to go in the ground, so we're just gonna continue to let these summer crops process random corn, but it brings pollinators in. I don't know that we'll actually get corn off of it, but the bees have just loved the corn. More beans. Again, we'll let these grow until they stop growing or until I have fall plants to stick in the ground. I just love a purple bean flower. Aren't they pretty? They're so purple. Yep, and then some more. A little bit of basil. All right, so these next 2 rows are potatoes. These are the last planting, I believe, of potatoes, but we're gonna have to really babysit these guys because we're starting to get pests on these guys already. So no bueno. I think the turkeys have been in here a couple of times, and I think they're helping keep some of these pests at bay. But we're gonna have to watch making sure that they don't get here and start eating the fruit of like the tomatoes and stuff, because they are older, so they'll be booger turkeys. This next section here is looking really good. We've got more beauty flowers, more basil. We have a pepper plant, and it's starting to put on some pretty substantial peppers. I think this is the one that's got a pepper. It might be the other one. But there's lots of buds on it. And these are just bell peppers. Because DJ and I both really enjoy bell peppers for all sorts of things. We've got tomatoes. Again, the plants are looking delightful. I've come in and pruned some of them, but you can see the fruit is just abundant if it will turn. They're just not turning for me this year yet. So we're just being patient. Being patient, right, Nick? We're being patient. Here's the pepper plant that's putting on fruit. So let those guys get a little bit bigger. Another pepper plant and some more basil and pretty flowers. To this next section, I have a love-hate relationship with, to be completely frank with you. I love how it's just an abundance of bees and pollinators. I hate how it's a bunch of weeds. But it is what it is. Along this front area, you can see we have beans, and again, not to be a broken record, but these beans will just let produce until they stop producing, and then we'll put these beds of beans to bed for the winter. And then behind that, you can see there is a hodgepodge of weeds, volunteer cherry tomatoes, all sorts of things, but hidden underneath, which was an experiment, is actually potatoes. I don't even know how I'll be able to find them. There they are. Okay, so there's a row of potatoes in here, and what I did was I had some old spent hay that I just came in, put a potato straight on the ground and covered it. And so it's an experiment. What we'll do is we'll let probably the cows in here to graze this all down. Once the sunflowers are done and the beans are done, and then we'll come in behind the cows and see if there is any beans in there. I wanted to use up as many of the potatoes as we could because we had more than what we actually had room for in the actual beds of the garden. And so that was an experiment. The hay will compost it. These will become beds next year. I was just letting this area kind of rest and take over. But we will turn those into some sort of bed next year, whether it's hay bales, beds, or whatever. But that is this lower part of the garden. Okay, you guys see it? Hello, hummingbird friend. Hi. So pretty. I know it's not coming up good, I'm sorry, but it's so pretty. All right, anyway, I'm gonna take you guys up here to the upper garden so you guys can see. This is our jungle part 2. But I haven't done a ton up here since we've planted tomatoes up here, but we did get some of this under control enough to get some more tomatoes up here. I've started trellising these up. I've not done a very good job, obviously. I need to get in here and weed these spearmint plants and get these freeze dried, because our goal is eventually to consolidate the spearmint, but if you've ever grown spearmint, you know that's an almost impossible task. So this winter we're going to completely cover all of this without holes in the tarps to help smother it out. But the tomatoes that are up here are doing really, really well, considering they came in a pretty rough time of the year. It was really hot, really dry. But we are getting fruit set on these. These are like Mr. Stripey's, which is my mom's favorite tomato. And then the rest of these are Romas, hopefully for sauce and stuff like that. So need to get up in here and do some work up in here. But I'm just thankful to have these in the ground, because even if they are a little bit of chaos, and we have to pick the fruit a little underripe, we will still have fruit down here. This is just some more pretty flowers that I had extra. We got a killer deal on these things, and so Tim picked up a whole slew of them. But again, jungle. And then we have some more tomatoes down here that are not quite as big, but they're still doing pretty good. All right, guys. Well, I am gonna get back to stuff, but thank you guys for joining me. I wanted to bring you guys along as we look at the garden. You know, lots of things going on, I'm sure, in your guys' lives as well, with school picking up and stuff. But hope you guys are still, if you have a garden, are enjoying your garden. And if not, I hope you guys are still having an awesome summer as we head soon into fall. So thank you guys for joining me. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.